So you're making good progress in your learning of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can code some HTML to have an element show up on your screen. You may be able to even change the size and color of that element using some CSS. But now you want to do more. If this describes you, you've come to the right place. My name is Peter, owner of Tilret Web Design, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to do something that's quite frequently requested, namely how to center elements both vertically and horizontally. But I'm not just going to show you one way to do this. I've got 5 different methods of doing this. So, with that introduction, let's get started. So we'll get started using CodePen as we usually do. We don't need the JavaScript panel, so we'll get rid of that and we'll just start typing in our HTML panel. We'll add a body, a section, and then a couple of divs, one for the outside and one for the inside. And in the inside div, we're going to add some text as an H3. We'll use my company's name, Tilret Web Design, and then we'll put a little fake logo in it. In this case, I'm actually going to make the logo just a blue circle. But let's close out all the tags, and then we can move over to our CSS to start getting things set up for our demonstration. So over here in our CSS, we'll just do some basic housekeeping stuff, set everything to a margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. And now we'll start with our outside container. We're going to give it a width of 250 pixels and a height of 250 pixels. And then we'll give it a border of solid green just so we can see what's going on. Inside it, you'll see our H3. And then we'll add our logo, which is going to be a blue circle, as I said. So just make that 100 pix by 100 pix. And then give it a border radius of 50% to turn it into a circle. And there's where we're at with our challenge on we want to put everything into the circle both vertically and horizontally. So the first and most common method to do this is using the Flexbox model. So with the Flexbox, what we'll do is we're going to move everything into our center, then we'll show the rest of the techniques while we have something in the center. So let's start with our outside container, display flex, align item center, and justify content center. And you'll see how everything in the middle kind of moved into the center. That inside container moved into the center of our outside container. Now with that inside container, we can do the same thing. We'll give it a display of flex, but when you do that, things go side by side, so you have to add this extra flex direction column. And then align item center, justify content center, and you'll see everything's lined up in that inside, which is outlined with the orange, and within that outside container, which is outlined in the green. And then with our section, let's move everything out into the middle. So our section, we'll call that display flex, align item center, justify content center. And that's our first method. So our second method uses the grid. So first we're going to do some housekeeping things. Let's get this section out of the way. We're just going to move it up higher in our code so we don't see it. Then we're going to go down here and get rid of that flex that we just put in for our outside container. One other little change I want to make is just as our inside, we want to put our width to the fit content just so it looks kind of centered and squared so we can see it up there in the corner. So then with our outside container, all we really have to do is display flex and then place content center, and you can see everything's in the middle now. And that's our second method. Now for our third method, we're going to do absolute positioning. So for this, let's get started by getting rid of our old coding of the display grid and so forth. And we're going to go down here to our inside container, and we're going to say position absolute. But that's not going to do anything because you need your parent container, the outside, to be position relative. And now everything should work. So let's go back down to the inside. We're going to put the top at 50% and the left at 50%. But why isn't it in the middle? Because it's focusing on that top left corner. So to fix this, we go into the next step here. We use transform, translate. We move everything 50% of the width of that inside back towards the center. And that's our third method. Our fourth method is kind of old school and isn't used as often, and that's table and margin tricks. But I'm going to show it to you anyway just so you know about it. So let's get rid of all our positioning, absolute and relative and so forth. And what we're going to do with our outside is we're going to call it display table. And then our inside, we get rid of that flex stuff and call it display table cell. And when you do that, it allows you to use this vertical align middle. And you'll see everything moves into the middle. But the only thing you can do next is text align center, but that only moves your text. So we have to do this extra step where we go back up here to our logo, we display that as a block, and then you can adjust the margin. Use margin 0 for the top and bottom, and then auto for the left and right. And our logo is pushed to the center. And that's our fourth method. Our fifth method is somewhat different, and it's focusing on a layout, specifically grid layout. So what we're going to do is get rid of all our previous coding, and we're going to set up a 3x3 grid that kind of looks like a tic-tac-toe board. You're not going to really see it, but that's what we're doing here. So we go back up to our outside div, get rid of that display table, and go back to making it display grid. In this way we set up our grid using this grid templates. Now at first it does the rows, so we're going to go 1FR, auto, and 1FR, and then the columns, which are the same. 1FR, auto, 1FR. Then we move down here to place our inside content into that grid. We do this by using grid area 2-2, meaning it goes into the second spot of rows and second spot of columns. Then itself we can display that as grid and place the content as center, so the inside contents are also centered. And there we are with our fifth method. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.